Good evening and welcome to Sunset News. In this broadcast, we bring you news, community stories, economic indicators, weather forecast, as well as sport. I am Ashwin Berry. In Sunset News tonight, a 39-year-old man and a 29-year-old woman will appear in court tomorrow following two big drug breakthroughs by the drug squad of the police over the weekend. The police found a climate-controlled marijuana greenhouse in a house in Sprokjeswoud Street, Kleine Kuppe, during a drug bust on Thursday evening, and on Saturday seized heroin worth more than 1.57 million Namibian dollars in the suitcase of an alleged drug mule on her way to India. A man that was left severely brain damaged after an assault last year that lasted for several hours was this weekend, according to his mother, left lying in his bloody vomit for hours in the emergency unit of the Katutura Hospital in Windhoek. The 21-year-old Shaldu Daries, who earlier was released in his mother's care, was first admitted late Thursday with fever, diarrhea and vomiting. According to his mother, Joanne Daries, personnel at the hospital allegedly told her there was no place for her son at the hospital, and being disabled, he is the responsibility of his mother. Daddy says the special formula milk, which is the only thing her son can drink, as well as the nappies he has to wear, are also not in stock at the hospital. According to her, her son was left for hours lying in his bloody vomit, while a drip that was put in was hours later found to not be working as it was not put in properly. The Venice Art Biennale 2022 was delayed a year due to the global pandemic. The 59th edition of this unique international art event is set to run from April 23 to November 27, with the pre-opening having taken place on 21 and 22 April. Thousands of artworks from over 80 countries have come together. A Namibian artist that prefers to remain unknown by name was invited to the Biennale, as is the habit of the organizers of this internationally recognized event. This event is, contrary to what was believed by certain members of the Namibian art world, not a case of a country being able to simply enter and display their art. It is instead a case of the organizers inviting a specific artist on account of his or her unique art form, adding value to the annual theme. In Namibia's case, RENN was invited. He is the creator of the Lone Stone Men of the Desert, which comprises of various sculptures resembling stylized human figures which have been scattered across the world's most ancient desert since 2014. Each sculpture carries a tag with a number identifying it and a distinctive message suggesting a possible encounter that it is moving towards. Separated from each other by kilometers of desert, posed in astonishing untainted locations far from urbanization, these stone men seem to incite a reflection on the deserts that keep the different human cultures apart, and on the need of their encounter to discuss as a collective the place of humankind in nature. The Namibian Marine Phosphates Sandpiper Marine Phosphate Project on the continental shelf of Namibia is contained within tenements of some 7,000 square kilometers. These cover the core area of phosphate mineralization delineated by government surveys during the 1970s. There is a considerable further extent of phosphates beyond the Sandpiper project. The Sandpiper deposit occurs as unconsolidated seafloor sediment containing a mixture of old seashells, mud, and phosphate sand. It now lies within the depth capability of available dredging technology, having recently completed a successful definitive feasibility study. Namibian Marine Phosphate is now moving into a project optimization phase while it seeks to gain the environmental approvals that are needed before the project can be initiated. They now have given extension of the scoping report public review period to 6 May instead of 29 April. All comments and concerns received from stakeholders during the public review period will be recorded, incorporated, and addressed in the environmental, social, and impact assessment report that will be shared with the public for review before the submission to the Environmental Commissioner for a record of decision. Police Inspector General Sebastian Ndeitunga has expressed concern over the poor living conditions, saying police officers will do their jobs well if they're provided with better accommodation and living conditions. Ndeitunga made the remarks on Tuesday during the official handover of the $5 million Namibian Bravo Police control gate facilities in the Oshikoto region. He said the acquisition of accommodation facilities at Bravo Police Control Gate comes at the right time, as some members of the force who were deployed in the Oshikoto region lived in poor housing conditions. Former President Hifikepunye Pohamba has called on all friends of education to assist the Hifikepunye Pohamba Combined School, which was previously known as Oshidute CS, with equipment needed to upgrade the school. Pohamba made the call during the inaugural ceremony of school namesake and patron held on Friday, saying education requires collective effort from all people. I call upon our business community, especially local business entities, to join the Friends of Education and sponsor different kinds of teaching and learning materials in order for the school to be able to construct the required science laboratory, he said. Now, in community news tonight, we look at the Crayfish Festival and the malaria campaign. Stay with us. Thank you for staying with Sunset News. Let's get into your community talk. Now watch as Hilda Shapunga, one of SME store owners, shares her Crayfish Festival experience that took place in Luderitz. Monique Adams was there.
Vir my geboek wat baie goedkoop was. Dit was 350 vir 4 dae. Ons het 'n baie goeie prys gekry om ons krewe te verkoop. Die komitee van Crayfish Festival het regtig waar hulle se input ingesit en die gemeenskap van Luderitz en die mense wat ingekom het ons ook baie ondersteun. Ons dank die Here vir dit wat hy vir ons gegee het. Ons vra ook nog vir die Here om vir die komitee meer krag te gee en ondersteuning te gee ook. Ja, ons sê baie dankie en 'n geseënde dag vir julle. Ons verkoop nog altyd en is 'n lekker lewe tussen Luderitz se krewe. Luderitz is a place for lovers. I thank you.
Okay, my auntie, so kan jy net vir ons asseblief sê wat hierso is?
Okay, dit is nou prons, is nog nie gaar nie. En die is nou kreef, die rou kreef. En dan is dit oesters en dan is dit die salsa. En dan hier is dit die calamari en dan is dit die hake en dan is dit die king club visbolletjies van king club gemaak.
So wat was die mense se gunsteling wat hulle hier?
Die calamari, die kreef, die prons, alles was hulle gunsteling. Ek koop elke dag verkoop ek uit. Ek begin 9 uur en dan 5 uur is ek al weg. Ek los die mense nog tot hier wat nog tot 10 uur toe werk, maar ek werk net 8-5. Wat baie goed was vir my en ons gaan nog aan om te verkoop.
Tasty, tasty indeed. Now, Ministry of Information, Communication and Technology Kavango East Information Officer Cecilia Iyambo spoke to Kenya Kambowe about the malaria outreach program currently taking place at the town. Have a look.
So what's happening is a malaria outreach activity that is being executed by the Kavango East Malaria Regional Task Force and the FLAME representatives. FLAME is an organization that supports malaria elimination activities in the region, actually, which consists of religious leaders. So these guys teamed up with the Kavango East Malaria Task Force members to create a platform to sensitize communities about malaria elimination. The reason being, our region is one of the regions most affected by malaria. This year alone, so far, we've already recorded 499 cases and 4 deaths. So that for us is a very big number, and that is why we feel we need to constantly sensitize the communities and remind them that malaria also is one of those diseases that in the region that are giving us problems actually, and they need to protect themselves by allowing their houses to be sprayed during the IRS spraying season and by sleeping under treated mosquito nets. Those are just some of the preventative measures that they should constantly be practicing.
Okay. When you say people should allow houses to be sprayed, are there some people who are rejecting these sprays?
Yes, the reason why I think probably by now we've not even come to the elimination part yet is because many people in communities still refuse when the Ministry of Health teams go to their houses for spraying. They have all sorts of reasons. Some people believe that the chemicals smell, or there's all sorts of beliefs around the chemicals that are used, but these are actually not true. What the colleagues are trying to do is to protect these communities. Once the shelter is sprayed, then mosquitoes will not be able to rest on the surfaces of their shelter, and as a result, then they will obviously not be bitten by the mosquitoes and eventually get malaria.
Now, in our story of the day, Namibia's premier recycling company, Namigreen, has started to measure CO2 reductions enabled by their recycling efforts. More on that after the break. Thank you for staying with Sunset News. Now, in the story of the day, Namigreen e-waste recycling in Namibia collects and recycles a considerable amount of used and broken electronics from both companies and households in Namibia, and now measures the CO2 impact of e-waste recycling operations in Namibia. Have a look.
Namibia's premier recycling company Namigreen have started to measure CO2 reductions enabled by their recycling efforts. Namigreen's e-waste recycling in Namibia collects and recycles a considerable amount of used and broken electronics, i.e. e-waste, from both companies and households in the country. The company does so to create jobs, prevent landfilling, and do something good for the environment. In the company's pursuit to become even more green, Namigreen's latest efforts includes measuring the carbon dioxide impact for all e-waste collected and recycled. Those measurements are in turn presented to their clients with a so-called certificate of disposal, which includes the amount of CO2 savings that particular recycling effort has produced. Their clients have responded well with the new CO2 measurements because it puts a concrete measure on their actual recycling efforts. According to Mr. Per Hansen, CEO of Namigreen, clients can now say they have saved the planet, for example, 1 ton of CO2 emissions simply by recycling old and broken electronics. In total, Namigreen estimates that their clients have contributed to a total reduction of 420 tons of CO2 in Namibia alone. Put into perspective, that amount of CO2 is what a normal passenger car would emit if CO2 is driven 42 times around our planet Earth. Namigreen's mission is keeping the environment of Namibia and Africa green and healthy by recycling electronic waste instead of the e-waste going to landfills. They use drop-off points or have an e-waste collected by booking an e-waste collection. Namigreen recycles from businesses, landfills, and households to ensure electronic waste is eradicated from Namibia. They aim to recycle e-waste to save the environment and future generations. They also want to do this in a responsible and safe way of disposing e-waste all over the country.
Truly interesting and indeed important. Now, in economic news after the break, we look at the latest fuel prices as well as the economic indicators. Stay with us.
Choose your flex package with Paratus today. Sign up for ultra-fast fiber with the convenience of mobile LTE. That's 2 products in one bundle. It's new, it's one bill, and you can stay connected in more than one location.
For more information, visit paratus.africa/NA.
Always prepared. Paratus.
Thank you for staying with Sunset News. Let's get into your economic news story just before the indicators. Fuel prices in Namibia will decrease for the first time in 2022 after 3 consecutive increments thanks to a reduction in levies. The price of petrol will go down by 1.20 Namibian dollars per litre, while diesel will only fall by 30 cents per litre. The Ministry of Mines and Energy has announced. As from Thursday, motorists will pay 17.90 Namibian dollars per litre for petrol and 19.93 Namibian dollars per litre for diesel at Walvis Bay, which is the port of entry. Reacting to the announcement, Simone Storm economist Theo Klein views the levy relief as a positive for household budgets that are under severe pressure from rising food prices, rising interest rates, and elevated fuel prices. Next up, let's have a look at the economic indicators. The Namibian dollar strengthened against the euro and pound and remained the same against the yuan. Very little movement on the NSX, but Trustco Group Holdings is up 5.6% and MTC is down 0.1%. The local index is down 0.03%, while the overall index is up 1.21%. Gold, platinum, and copper are up, and a decline being seen in zinc and Brent. Now, tomorrow's weather forecast follows right after the break. Adam Tas is coming to Windhoek to help build a brighter future for education. Join us at the Sounds of Caring concert at Windhoek High School Vekkop on 20 and 21 May, where he will be performing with Von Arends and Rian Smith. Tickets cost 200 Namibian dollars and are available via eticket.my.na. All proceeds go towards the African Child Development Trust. Thank you for staying with Sunset News. Let's get into your weather predictions. Enana stays the hottest place in the north, with rain predicted for Katima Mulilo, Rundu, and Tsumeb. It is nice and sunny at the coast, with Henties Bay, Swakopmund, and Walvis Bay enjoying minimum temperatures of 17 degrees and maximum temperatures of between 25 and 27 degrees. Now, the UN Secretary General on Sunday urged debt relief for African countries and more investment to help their economies recover from the COVID-19 pandemic and how the weather impacts the Ukraine war. Let's see after the break. Thank you for staying with Sunset News. Now, UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres on Sunday urged debt relief for African countries and more investment to help their economies recover from the COVID-19 pandemic and weather the impacts of the Ukraine war. The United Nations chief spoke in Senegal on the first leg of a trip that will also include Niger and Nigeria, where he will visit communities affected by conflict and climate change. Supply disruptions due to Russia's invasion invasion of Ukraine have caused simultaneous food, energy, and finance crises in Africa and beyond, Guterres said. The coronavirus pandemic pushed many poor countries into debt distress, and the Ukraine war has disrupted their economic recovery, according to the International Monetary Fund. Public debt ratios in sub-Saharan Africa are at their highest in more than 2 decades, the IMF said last week. International financial institutions must urgently put in place debt relief measures by increasing liquidity and fiscal space so that governments can avoid default and invest in social safety nets and sustainable development, Guterres said. The United Nations has made proposals to the World Bank and the IMF regarding the mobilization of various funds and debt relief instruments, but so far the measures taken have been insufficient, he added. He called on wealthy countries and pharmaceutical companies to accelerate donations of COVID-19 vaccines and invest in local vaccine production, with almost 80% of the African population still not vaccinated against COVID-19. Now in sports news after the break, we look at horse racing, martial arts, as well as soccer. Stay with us. Thank you for staying with Sunset News. Now, in sports, we start off with Namibia's world-class athlete Christina Mboma, who ran a world-leading 21.87 seconds in the 200 meters on Saturday, less than an hour after running an African under-20 record time of 10.97 seconds in the 100 meters. This makes her the first under-20 athlete in history to go sub-11:22 on the same day. Beatrice Masilingi was also in the 100-meter race, but picked up an injury. Namibia's Daniel Paulus took first place in the 5,000-meter event at the Gaborone Invitational Meet on Sunday. He ran a time of 13.54 seconds. Mahmoud Bok set a new Namibian 400-meter record of 45.80 seconds. The world record of 46.14, which was set by Daniel Haitembo April 1980, stood for 42 years. Namibian martial arts fighter Veya Hinda bagged gold at the IMMAF Africa Championship taking place in South Africa. He defeated South Africa's Nicholas Vermaak in the featherweight division to scoop the medal. Another Namibian, Geraldo Bok, took bronze, while Jason Bierkus also secured bronze for the country. Namibia MMA national team spokesperson Natasha De Souza thanked Namibians for their support during the competition. Commerce Turf Club horse Crystal Stream won the A 1,800 meter race on Saturday at the May Day Rehoboth Winter Cup event that took place at the Rehoboth Horse Racing Turf. Rockley Beach of Okahanja Racing was in second place, while Mboma came in third. The event, which was broadcasted by Namibia Media Holdings Network Television, saw 13 top races taking place. The Nambred Maiden Graduation 1,000 meters was dominated by Tierspoor, followed by Supporter and Right Win in the third. The Nambred A and D 18,000 meter was won by Black River, while Freedom Fighter came in second and Ekuva in third. Now, those have been our sports stories. Your highlights after the break. Thank you for staying with Sunset News through the last half hour. Let's get into the highlights. A man that was left severely brain damaged after an assault last year that lasted for several hours was this weekend, according to his mother, left lying in his bloody vomit for hours in the emergency unit of the Katutura Hospital in Windhoek. The 21-year-old Shaldu Daris, who earlier was released in his mother's care, was first admitted late Thursday with fever, diarrhea and vomiting. Fuel prices in Namibia will decrease for the first time in 2022 after 3 consecutive increments thanks to a reduction in levies. The price of petrol will go down by 1.20 Namibian dollars per litre, while diesel will only fall by 30 cents per litre, the Ministry of Mines and Energy has announced. Christine Boma ran a world-leading 21.87 seconds in the 200 meters on Sunday, less than an hour after running an African under-20 record time of 10.97 seconds in the 100 meters. This makes her the first under-20 athlete in history to go sub-11:22 on the same day. And with that, we have come to the end of the broadcast. Make sure you join Sunset News on Facebook, on all NMH platforms on weekdays, as well as on our website, oneup2.com. Sunset News screens on DSTV channel 285 and GoTV channel 94 every weekday from 7:30 to 8 p.m. I am Ashwin Berry. This has been Sunset News. Don't end your day without us.